Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Marilyn Darling Show, and welcome to another episode of Calligraphy for Beginners. So we have graduated to a pen. We went from a pencil to a ballpoint. So we're going to continue using a ballpoint. I want you to find the finest pencil or pen that you have. I'm going to be working with very fine lines today. Today we are doing the majuscules, or the uppercase alphabet. So, one of the first things that we need to teach you is the rules of the road, as I like to call them. So, each one of these lines would be considered a baseline. So, an X height is half of the size of one of these. But because it is so small, we're going to double the space. Okay? So, every couple of lines, we're going to make a baseline. Okay? Most of the calligraphy is based on a couple of things. The X height is half of the size of a capital letter. So this is called the universal line of beauty. And it might not seem like much, come on, but when we look at it in context, you can see that it starts with a curve, a straight, and then another curve. Okay? And this is the universal line of beauty. It's based on gentle curves. I'm going to drop a couple down, mark off an X height. Every time we tell you to drop a couple lines, mark off an X height, always drop about 3 lines, mark off an X height. Okay? We have the baseline. This is the baseline. This is the first quarter. This is the X height, which would be the half point. Next space up would be the first ascender. And this second line up here, that would be the second ascender. Then when we go the other way, we have the first descender, and the second descender. And then below that we have the third descender. Sometimes we go into the third ascender, but very rarely. Okay? So, we're going to drop a couple down, mark off an X height. That's how big the X height is. When we make letters like F, for example, they start off with a universal line of beauty. And then they go from the first ascender up past the second ascender into the third ascender with a hat. This is just an example. Alright, we're going to drop a couple down, mark off an X height. Then we have the lobe. We're going to have kind of a looping curve from one lobe, one loop to a lobe. And then we have another lobe, or a spiral. Okay, so there is a universal line of beauty. We have a straight ascending line. So when we make an A, we come down from the second ascender, a little bit of weight in the middle, release baseline, and then when we do an ascending stem line, we start off at a hairline, and then we go to a thick line, and then we flatten it off at the bottom. Okay, and that would be our A. So, just for context. So when we're doing monoline calligraphy, we start off with our universal line of beauty, and then we come straight down, and then we have half of our A. The next part is we're going to come to the space between where we stopped our universal line of beauty and the point between there and the point between where our flat spot on our universal line of beauty comes in, and then we're going to come halfway between the X height and the baseline. Okay, we're ignoring this for right now. So we're going to hit 3 points. We're going to come up, we're going to hit this point, curve around, hit this point, come down and hit this point, and then come back down, hit this point. So it should look like that. And that is how you make an A. So when we're doing it at speed, that's how it should look. Okay? Now, we're going to use this double lobe thing. We're going to make a B. Only we're going to use the universal line of beauty. We're going to start off universal line of beauty down to the baseline. And then we're going to start just above where we started, where we went in for that A, and we're going to start at the first ascender. We're going to make a spiral down to the X height, up to the second ascender, and lobe through that spine, lobe down to the X height. And then we're going to come spiral out and in. And there we have our B. So when it's done at speed, it should look like so, or something thereabout. Okay, let's drop a couple down, mark off an X height. The next one is just a giant spiral. So we're going to come from the first ascender down to the X height, spiral up to the second ascender, down to the baseline, and up to the X height. into your next letter. Another way to do a C is you start at the first ascender, cross over 2 lines, and all the way back up to the second ascender, down to the baseline, up to the X height, and spiral in. And there we have our copperplate-esque C. D is a universal line of beauty. Well, we're going to take this bottom bit and we're going to extend it 2 squares out. We're going to do a little hop. We're going to come back down to the baselines, cross right through that spine. We're going to go 1 square in, up to the X height, and then we're going to come back in, cross that spine, spiral down to the first quarter height, up to the first ascender, and then into the X height. So when it's done at speed, it looks like this. Okay. The E is kind of like the C over here. We're going to come down, spiral up and out, and then this one is the opposite. So we're going to spiral down and in. Okay. And then the next version of this is we're going to use a horizontal entry oval. So we're going to do a horizontal entry oval across 2 squares. Come up like we did with the C, and we're going to stop at the first ascender. We're going to spiral out from there, and then spiral in from there. And there we have our copperplate-esque C. E. Alright, the F, we'll start with a universal line of beauty down to the baseline, start at the first ascender, spiral into the third ascender, and do a wavy line above that universal line of beauty, and then right at the back of this entrance, we're going to go right between that entrance and the spine of the F, and we're going to go across that spine and then down. Okay. Let's drop a couple down, mark off an X height. G, we're going to start off with a horizontal entry oval, and then we're going to make a C shape. Only we're going to stop, and then we're going to go into a descending stem loop. So you want to go up as far as you go down. So if you go 2 spaces up, you're going to go 2 spaces down. This goes for thirds. If you use a thirds, if you go thirds, you go thirds up, thirds down. It has to look even. G, H. H, we're going to start off with a Y, like an entry Y shape. We're going to go into a straight line with a foot here down at the bottom, or you can do compound curve at the top, and then a universal line of beauty down to the baseline. The universal line of beauty doesn't have to be this wiggly thing. It just has to be a line with slight curves at the top, and you can see that there's like a slight oval shape here and an oval shape here. Then when we do the line on the second line, we're going to start above in the third ascender, come down, straighten it out, straight to the bottom. So you see that this line kind of mimics this line just a little bit. And then just like our A right here, we're going to do the same thing down here. Come up, over, around, and then cross the bow tie in the middle of that H. So it looks very handsome. Okay. We're going to make a universal line of beauty. We're going to come from behind that universal line of beauty from the first ascender down to the X-height, through the spine, up to the second ascender. And there we have our I. The J is a larger version of the I into a descending stem loop. So we're going to start with the descending stem loop. And we're going to come from behind the J, come from the quarter height down to the baseline, circle up to the second ascender. And there we have our J. Now you can do these the opposite. You could start from behind the I, spiral up, come through, out, and down. Same thing with the J. You can come from behind, spiral up, down through the baseline, into a descending stem loop. Okie dokie. Have I lost everyone? Okay. Alright, I'm going to mark, come down, mark 2, mark descending, mark an X height with a baseline. K, I'm going to do a little compound curve. Then I'm going to do a universal line of beauty down to the baseline. I'm going to start across at one of these parallelogram lines. I'm going to start just beyond that, up at the first ascender. I'm going to start at the first ascender, curl up towards the second ascender, curl down towards the X height, and then into the spine. And then I'm going to come out to that same height, and then down to the baseline, and then up to the X height. So when it's done at speed, it looks something like that. Okie dokie. L is kind of a loopy mess, so it's probably just best to show you. Start at the first ascender, swirl down to the X height, up to the second ascender, through that down to the baseline, same length as that arm, through that spine, and then up at the end into your next letter. The M starts at the first quarter, spirals down to the baseline, reverse universal line of beauty up to the second ascender, universal line of beauty down to the baseline, reverse universal line of beauty up to the second ascender, underturn into the next letter. So when we go up, we are going against or not with the 55. When we are coming down, we come down with the 55. When we are coming up, we are going against the 55. And when we are coming down, we come down with the 55. Okay? Now you just have to wiggle it. Okay? N, let's drop 2 down, mark off an excite. Alright, the N is one of the only ones that doesn't come with the downstroke being on the 55. So here is our 55. We're going to go from the baseline. We're going to start in the middle of one of these parallelograms and make a slight curve on that 55 all the way up to the second ascender. And if I were to look at this head on, this is me head on. This is the down towards me. So we're going to come in a slight wiggle down to the baseline. And then we're going to come right back up that 55-degree line. And then right at the end, we're going to come out just a little bit. Okay? So when it's done at speed, go like that. Okay? The letter O is kind of, instead of starting on the side where we would if we were using a lowercase oval, we're going to start at the top on one of these parallelogram lines. We're going to come down, hit a parallelogram, hit the baseline, hit that parallelogram, and then we're going to spiral into the middle of that excite. Okay, so another way to do it is we could start a horizontal entry oval from the first ascender across, hit those corners, spiral up, down, up, and in. Same thing when we learn the Q. We're going to do horizontal entry oval into a vertical oval. And we're going to stop at the first, the quarter height. We're going to go into a compound curve through that line. That's how you make a Q. You can also do the number 2Q, starting at the first ascender, down to the excite, up to the second ascender, down to the baseline, curly Q out, and into your next letter. Okay? Alright, the R, I'm going to drop 2 down, mark off an excite. The R is for a universal line of beauty from the second ascender down to the baseline. And we're going to start just in that first parallelogram line behind the universal line of beauty. We're going to start at the first ascender, down to the excite, spiral up to the second ascender, and then into a lobe, into the spine of that letter, just like we did with the B. And with an R, we're going to come out to the same thickness of that parallelogram line. Go down to the X height and then up to the X height. X height down to the baseline, back up to the X height. Same with the P. So the P starts universal line of beauty, spiral out to R, spiral out, spiral in, leg, and with a B, spiral out, spiral in. So these all have the same type of spine and upper portion. Okay? S is another wiggly line. So, we have to hit some points here. Here is our parallelogram. We're going to hit here and here and here and here and there and there and there. So, I'm going to spiral from this corner through the middle, hit all of these points, come down, hit that point, the baseline, and then spiral in. Okay? So, T, kind of like an F, but we don't cross it in the middle. So there's universal line of beauty, starting at the first ascender, down, up, and wiggle out, and there we have our T. If we were to cross it in the middle, there we would have a B, an F. Alright, time to move forward. U and Y have the same type of structures. So we're going to start at the first ascender. Let's mark off an X height and a baseline. We're going to start at the first ascender, come down to the X height, all the way spiral up to the second ascender, down to the baseline, up to the second ascender in a U-like fashion. And then we're going to go from the second ascender into an underturn, into your next letter. You can make this thinner, which will make it look nicer. Let's do a Y. So a Y starts the same way as a U does. Only it goes into a descending stem loop, and then into an upstroke, into your next letter. A V starts out like an H, so we're going to do a compound curve, and then we're going to do a semi-universal line of beauty down to the baseline, and then when we're going up, we're going against the universal line of beauty into a spiral. The V and the W are kind of the same. Compound curve, universal line of beauty down to the baseline. Come up to the first ascender, back down to the baseline, and then up and out and around. And there we have T and V and U. T, U, V, W, X. X, we're going to start at the first ascender, down to the baseline, down to the X height, up to the second ascender, down to the baseline. So we're a giant spiral out, and then we're going to hop over to one parallelogram line, and we're going to spiral in. So we spiraled out, and then we spiraled in. And then we've done Y, so all there's left to do is Z. Z, we're going to do kind of like we did with the X. So we're going to make this first leg, do a spiral out, and then we're going to make a little loop right here. We're going to go back down to that spine, and we're going to make a descending stem loop into an upstroke. And there we have our Z. Okay. So, we've done all of the alphabet now. Let's see. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. There we have it. So there are all the majuscule alphabet letters. What do y'all think about that? So, that's all I have for today. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. I hope that you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. Like, comment, subscribe. Ring the little bell. Make sure it's set to all so when I upload new content, YouTube notifies you. And I will be back next Wednesday with another episode of Calligraphy for Beginners. So, take care until then. Next week we will talk about connecting those letters. So, get out there and enjoy your life. Be with the people you love. Tell them you love them. And I love you to pieces. Have a great day. Oka love you. Bye.